Hello everyone, it's Pilot Flame, and we are back with another FPL video, and we're looking at Game Week 2 preview. So we're going to be going over my team, we're going to be going over the various different fixtures for Game Week 2, and potentially some transfers, captaincy choices, vice captaincy choice. We're going to be looking at my three big hitters that I think are going to be doing well this week, and then I'm going to go with a differential to see, and then kind of keep track how that goes on throughout the season. And I'll do a differential for each position to make it a little bit more interesting. I'm not going to do like a restricted percentage. I'm just going to say something that is maybe they're not expected to do well, but they will eventually or will do well in this specific fixture. So if you want to take a punt, you can go for it. So let's get started. So we're looking at my team here. So initially we have Pope. Obviously we have a 4 million non-playing goalkeeper in Button and goal. Pope obviously has to play. Button's probably not going to play because Ryan's going to play for Brighton. I think Pope could get some save points. He may not get a clean sheet because obviously Arsenal's attack is good, and historically last season was very good at home. But maybe a little penalty save. Is he worth captaining? Probably not, but you know, you never know. Might be something interesting, but probably will get some saves. They'll probably not keep a clean sheet. Not expecting anything. If Pope gets me 3 points this week, I'll be very happy with that. Then moving on to the back line, we got double Liverpool defense, which is not ideal this week, although it is against Southampton, because press conference came out and Klopp said that Adrian had picked up an injury, some swelling in his ankle after the celebrations midweek. So that's going to be a bit of a problem. So they're going to be having a goalkeeper that's never played for the first team, although they were both on the bench. I'm spacing out on the names of them at the moment. Let me bring them up on my other screen here. Let's see. Let's go to Liverpool. So Lonergan, I think is how you pronounce it, and Keller. I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce them, but that is what the two options that we have. Those are the two options that we have. So we're gonna have to rely on one of those two to hopefully keep the ball out of the back of the net, and hopefully they do well, because I have both Robertson and Van Dijk. Van Dijk was obviously fortunate enough to get a goal last week. If you can get another one, that'd be great, but can't always rely on that. Robertson didn't do anything last week. Just got the standard 2 points, no clean sheet, unfortunately. So hopefully going to get some returns for him this week. And that's what we're kind of looking for, especially with this whole goalkeeper situation where we don't know which keeper's going to start, because it doesn't look like Adrian is going to start either. So it's a bit of a worry for a clean sheet for Liverpool. So the people that obviously have Mane are looking pretty good, because Mane is most likely to start. Salah did play 120 minutes, but he'll probably start as well. So we'll have to see. But apart from that, clean bill of health pretty much across the board for Liverpool. Just Adrian and Alisson's the one that are major in doubt. Next we got Everton against Watford, and Watford looked dreadful in their opening game. Looked very bad. And they got ran over basically by a Brighton team that's nothing special, really. So I'm looking for Digne to probably keep a clean sheet there at home, hopefully. Maybe a little free kick, something of that nature, maybe. But I'm expecting good things from Digne this week. Obviously, got the clean sheet last week. Maybe some attack returns this weekend on the clean sheet. Be a good start for him FPL wise. Obviously, Everton going down to 10 men wasn't ideal for them, but they end up keeping the clean sheet, which is all we care about as fantasy managers. And then we got Zinchenko. So Zinchenko looks like he's going to be playing for at least the next week or two for sure. Pep came out in his press conference saying that Mendy is he's back in training, but he wants to see him in training, fit for many training sessions before he starts him. Now, with Pep, that could be, he could do anything. He could just start Mendy on the weekend. Who knows? So that would be interesting if he did, and it would suck for me. But if he's going to rotate, then we'll look elsewhere. We can easily swap Zinchenko to like a Man United asset, like a Wan-Bissaka at 5.5. Easily swappable there, if that's going to be the case. Or we could potentially look if Mendy's going to start full time, then we can look to maybe get Mendy in, because when we had Mendy in for the few weeks at the beginning of last season, he did really well. So hopefully that's the case. Moving on to the midfield, we got Ayoze Perez against Chelsea. Now Chelsea obviously looked better midweek versus Liverpool. Not very good against United, mind you. They did hold the ball well, had a good bit of the possession, but just basically we're just punished by United's counterattacks. But they do hold the ball well. But Leicester obviously known for being a counterattacking side. Hopefully Perez can get on the end of one and get us some points. Obviously against the big six, you don't really expect much. Anything versus Chelsea, Arsenal, Liverpool, Manchester City, Spurs, or Man United, you just kind of assume they're not going to get anything, so no clean sheet or no goal or anything like that. Anything else is obviously a bonus. Would it be awesome if Perez got, a goal and a clean sheet? Of course it would, but I'm not going to have my hopes up. I always want to keep the attacker on the field. So I have Lundstrom first on my bench because he has a favorable fixture at Crystal Palace. But I would prefer Perez to play because I know Perez is going to be a good asset. It's 6.5 over a string of games. And I didn't expect him to do anything this week. Going into this week anyway. The fixture that I was looking for is obviously the Sheffield United one. Even the Wolves one was a tough fixture to open up. And then he's got Bournemouth at home. He's got Man United away after that, which isn't great. Spurs at home. Maybe something there. Probably unlikely. But then he's got Newcastle. So it's really on off for them. But so if he gets a return once every 3, then we're looking alright for a 6.5 million midfielder. I'm just gonna jump over a couple here and go to Martial. So Martial got us a goal. Looked very good. Was starting to press from the front. And we're doing really well. Yo. And hopefully they can keep that up, because in order for United to have a good season, Martial and Rashford need to score probably 15 to 20 goals each if we're going to have a decent season, because obviously Lukaku had a good chunk of the goals. They're going to have to pair up well. They're going to have to link up with Pogba, and Pogba's going to have a good game in order for them to beat Wolves on Monday night. Potential speculations of Solskjaer changing up the formation to a 3-5-2 to mirror against Wolves' tactics. Because Wolves is going to play very compact. They're going to be very organized. They're going to be super annoying to break down, and they're going to try to hit you on the break. So we basically need to clog up the midfield, because our fullbacks aren't going to get beat, and they're not going to go by our center backs. We're not going to get caught by surprise, even though they're going to try to do that. So we'll see, and then hopefully Martial and Rashford can get the goods, and then obviously we can look to get some potential potential points from RCL. It looks like they're on a whoever gets taken down for a penalty gets to take it. So we'll see. We'll see in regards to that. Moving on to potential captaincy options this week, we have Sterling and Salah. Sterling obviously going against Spurs at home. Salah going against Southampton away. Southampton obviously being a much weaker team. Spurs being much stronger. So I have the captaincy currently on Salah. I think that's where we're probably going to keep it most likely. Because he's the one that's going to be doing probably doing the damage alongside Mane, because we can't rely on a clean sheet this week with obviously both the primary and secondary keepers being out. It's not FIFA 20. Did I have it on FIFA 20? I didn't mean to if I did. Let me change that. Let me change that really quickly. My apologies for that. I'm trying to think where I can change. I gotta go on Twitch for this. I have to go on Twitch for this. I'm trying to think what I can change it to. So I thought I put it up as just nothing, but I guess you have to set it something. Let me go to creator dashboard. What can I change it to? I guess IRL, maybe. Talk shows and podcasts. Yeah, that'll do. Talk shows and podcasts. That'll probably do. That looks good. That should work. Thank you for pointing that out, Zero. Much appreciated. And I'll just leave it on that. So where were we? We're talk show and podcast. So Salah and Sterling. Sterling obviously at home. Man City's obviously very good at home. Aguero also a very good asset at home, no matter who he plays. So if you have Aguero on your team, maybe look to captain him. Even though he's against Spurs, he typically does damage against the pretty much any opposition at home. But again, the rotation risk of Jesus could be a problem. So I'm gonna keep it on Salah for now. Unless there's a transfer that may be a captaincy choice. The game is Fantasy Premier League, is what we're dealing with today. Fantasy Premier League football. So I think it maybe put me under FIFA 20. I don't know why, but or maybe I typed it in by just default by accident. But it's Fantasy Premier League, so it is a fantasy sport based on Premier League football. And basically you get points for if a player gets goals and assists, clean sheets, negative points if they get sent off or get a yellow card or get subbed off at a certain time. They get less points. So it's you set up your team, you can set a captain, you can set a formation, you can do all these sorts of things. And basically at the end of the year you see whoever has the most points in your leagues or overall, and certain people get rewards for it. So like the number one I think gets like a all expenses paid trip or something to any game of their choice for them and a guest or something, which is pretty cool. So, but it's also fun because it adds a little bit of spice to the Premier League season as well. So it's quite fun. Quite fun indeed. Can be quite addictive too because you're looking at a bunch of different teams and you're trying to try to get the best value out of your team because you have a limited amount of transfers per week. So you can only sub out so many players a week without having to pay the price for it. And you also have a limited budget in order to buy the amount of players that you want. And there's various different modes. I'm just going in a just a standard league. So whoever's the most points at the end of the 38 game weeks, wins the mini league that I'm in with my family and friends. And then there's other leagues that I'm in as well. But some of them are head-to-head, where you get points. Whoever wins that week against the other person gets the win. The other person gets the loss. It's very similar to American fantasy sports too. But yeah. So moving on to the forwards, we have Wilson and King both against Aston Villa. Now they're against another team that's just been promoted. I expect them to do well. I'm hoping that they do well. These are the reason we brought them in. If they do not do well, then we're looking to basically get rid of them. We can potentially downgrade King to a 6 million forward or 6.5 million forward, and potentially get some upgrade somewhere for Wilson to Rashford, who scored 2 goals on the opening day for United versus Chelsea. So if United can keep that up, then it's even more viable to swap them out. So we're going to be definitely keeping a close eye on them. They play on I believe it's the 11 o'clock block. Yes. So in my time zone, I'm 1 hour ahead of EST. So the first do they play an 11 o'clock block? I went too many weeks ahead. They do still. So we got the first game at 7:30 EST is Arsenal versus Burnley. And then Aston Villa Bournemouth is one of the 11 o'clock games. So we're keeping a close eye on that one. Aston Villa obviously did well to start out against Spurs, but then obviously ran out of gas after 65-70 minutes into the second half. Moving on to the bench, Button is not going to play, just 4 million goalkeeper, so needed to go there. Touched on Lundstrom a bit from Sheffield United. Obviously has a good fixture against Palace at home. Palace seem to be a bit reluctant to play Zaha. I don't think they will make the same mistake again. I can safely assume that they will play him. So is that going to be a clean sheet for Sheffield United? Anything with a not a relegation team, a newly promoted team, excuse me, is not guaranteed. It's never guaranteed. So we're gonna have to wait and see on that one. I have him first on the bench because he's almost guaranteed to start. Obviously, nothing's a guarantee in FPL, but definitely something that we can look at. Moving on, we got Mason Greenwood and Dendoncker are the last two. Dendoncker had a goal disallowed. Unfortunate. He was on my bench, so I wouldn't have got points for it anyway, and he wouldn't have came in. But he's up against my team, which is Manchester United. Greenwood, I would love to see him start. That would be really cool. He's 4.5 million, so it'd be pretty cool to see him start. We obviously want to see the youngsters get involved. So that's pretty much it for my team. Now the question is, what transfers, if any, do I make? Well, for starters, we're looking at Pope. So Pope's fixtures get better after game week 4. But Burnley have this knack of going up against teams which have the ability to fire a lot of shots on goal. And they typically have the ability to stop a good majority of them. Whether they keep a clean sheet every time, that's a different story. But they have no Europe this season, so could be looking good for them. Maybe something against Arsenal. Arsenal didn't look crazily threatening against Newcastle. They look pretty vulnerable down the back as normal. Maybe something there. But we want Pope in for this string of fixtures right here. 5 through game week 12. That's what we want him for. The Liverpool at home one, okay, yeah, that's gonna suck. He's probably gonna get destroyed. You know. But is what it is. But I don't expect much damage in the away game against Wolves. I don't expect much damage versus Arsenal, if anything. And then the Liverpool one's gonna be, yeah, it is what it is. else we got going here? So let's look at the fixtures. Let's see the kickoffs here. So the kickoffs we got. So Arsenal have the 8:30 game. So right out the gate, goalkeeper's playing. So we'll go fixture by fixture. So Aston Villa vs Bournemouth. I'm gonna keep my Bournemouth players in. Makes no sense to get rid of them. The reason we started with them in the first place is because we wanted to see the damage they could do in their very good fixtures. And as we could see with Wilson, obviously they have the Man City at home game, which is pretty bad, but their fixtures, for the most part, up until game week 9, are really pretty good. Watford away could probably be considered a 2 right now in the FDR department because Watford looked pretty bad versus Brighton. So really the only tough fixtures is Man City and Arsenal. So we want to keep them in and see how they're doing. We know they're not going to do good against Man City, but who knows? They might pull something out of the bag. So I'm going to keep those guys in. Brighton and West Ham, I do not have either of those teams, so that game should end up 1-1 with the 2 highest scoring assets on both teams scoring an own goal. That's what we want. Everton versus Watford, we obviously have Digne. We want Digne obviously to keep the clean sheet. They're at home. They should do well. Hopefully they don't get a red card or something crazy again. And then maybe some attacking returns because Watford obviously look very vulnerable to a Brighton side that doesn't normally score 3 goals at a time. Norwich and Newcastle, don't have any of those players, so that game doesn't really matter too much to me either. But we'll potentially keeping a close eye on if Pukki scores again versus Newcastle. Also, I'm spacing out on the guy's name from Newcastle that plays up front. What's his name? Joe Linton, because he's a 6 million option and he may bring something to the table because he looked pretty lively versus Arsenal. Had a few chances, but kind of maybe getting used to the speed of the league because it came from, was that Belgium or Bundesliga? I'm not sure. I know it's one of those two. And then lastly, we obviously have the big hitter at the 12:30 EST kickoff between City and Spurs. So that'll be obviously one that everyone's probably going to be watching. But the main fixtures for us is Liverpool-Southampton. We'll probably be watching that game. Obviously Arsenal-Burnley for our keeper. Bournemouth-Aston Villa, we'll be keeping a close eye on while watching the Liverpool game. And then obviously Everton we'll pay close attention to. As for the Sunday kickoffs of the 9 a.m. EST, we have Sheffield United versus Crystal Palace. So, not much going on there in terms of my team. I know some people will be looking at Crystal Palace assets potentially, and they'll also succeed if Lundstrom continues to play. Then you have Chelsea versus Leicester. So people will probably be looking at Perez to see how he does there, or Jamie Vardy, or many of players like that. And then another important game on the Monday is United versus Wolves, because a lot of people will be looking at United to see if they can keep up the good form. If United can keep up the good form, then people will start to be thinking that they're a serious threat. If they do become a serious threat, then we could be looking for serious increases in price rise. I know Martial and Rashford have already gone up once. May see more, because obviously Wolves last season, 2 games in the span of a week, both at Molineux, the Wolves home ground, 2 defeats for United. We'll see if they make any adjustments for that. So that's what we have to look to this weekend. Kind of sucks because obviously my team doesn't play on the weekend, but it is what it is. So let's look at outstanding the outliers here. So the player that I think, top 3 players that I think are going to do good this week in no particular order. I think obviously bragging about my own team, but I think Callum Wilson will do really well this week. I just think that they're he's too good of an attacker. They have too quick of an attack to not do some damage against an Aston Villa team who's going to come out and they're going to try to play football. They're not going to sit back. They're still going to be organized, but they may not have the steam to play the full 90 minutes, and that's where obviously the quick pace of Bournemouth can punish them. So hopefully something like that happens for us Wilson owners. Maybe King as well, because King is on penalties apparently. But it may be a who gets taken down takes it type of situation. Next, I think that Sadio Mane is going to be a big hitter this week. Obviously, not playing very much in Game Week 1. Looking very sharp in midweek. Subbed off early, quote unquote. Could be coming in and getting a decent points haul. Obviously, Liverpool look a different dynamic when they have the big three up front with Salah, Mane, and Firmino. And with those three up top, I think Mane seems to be the one that could potentially do the most damage this week. Also, it's the thing like against your old club type of mentality as well. So maybe I'm gonna do a one up. Maybe Robertson as well. Maybe gets in the action, because typically when Robertson goes out on the left flank, Mane can drift in centrally and win the headers, which he did last season. Mane actually scored quite a few headers for a smaller guy. And then lastly, I think for the FPL assets, for like the main people, the people that have a lot of. I think that all the people that have Aubameyang, as much as I hate to say it, I think he'll score again this week. I think he'll get you a return. He's a very good captaincy choice this week. Obviously, Arsenal home versus Burnley, who obviously did do too well last season despite their good start this season. I think Aubameyang could potentially get a very nice haul this week. On paper, looks very good, but who knows? Burnley could show up very organized and put that down. I would like to see that happen, considering I have Pope, but I think that Aubameyang will do the business here and get a goal and be a very good captaincy choice. Now, in terms of differentials, I'm gonna have to bring up the old. Gonna have to bring up the list here. I'm not too familiar with some of the names of some players, but differential number 1, I think for goalkeepers, let's see, I think Dean Henderson could be a big differential this weekend. Here's my reasoning why. So Zaha is very unsettled at Crystal Palace, seems to be one of their major threats, and he doesn't seem to be, he came on, he was lively. Whether they start him again, I don't know, but there seems to be a rift there between him and the management over there. So we could potentially be looking at something where he's not, just not happy and doesn't play up to standard, and then Sheffield United maybe nick a 1-0. And he's 1.5% owned. So if you're looking for a keeper, this week maybe you're on a wild card or something like that after the disastrous Game Week 1, he could be something to where he's a good choice. Obviously, he collected 2 saves versus Bournemouth. Mind you, Bournemouth, most of their chances weren't actually shots. So I think Dean Henderson is my differential for this week for a goalkeeper. For defenders, my differential this week is going to be Ainsley Maitland-Niles. Obviously did really well last week and is obviously playing in place of Bellerin, still only 4.4% owned. But obviously Burnley like to, pack up shop. They like to just defend. I can easily see this game being a 1-0, and if it's a 1-0, then it may be a repeat of last week where Ainsley Maitland-Niles into Aubameyang, and it's a goal, and that's it. And that's all they need to do to win the game. But I can easily see this also being a scoreless draw, a no-no. Because Burnley obviously scoring more goals than they usually do in over 3 weeks in their first game. So it'll definitely be interesting. But I think Ainsley Maitland-Niles is a differential. He's 5 million, so he's $500,000 cheaper than the likes of Zinchenko or Wan-Bissaka. And Arsenal's fixtures are they're decent to start off here. So they got Burnley this week. They have Liverpool, which obviously isn't great in game week 3, and they have their rivals Spurs at home. But those are the two tough ones, and then they have Watford away, which should be pretty easy. Usually Arsenal does pretty well against Watford. Then they have Aston Villa at home. That should be fairly comfortable. And then they have United. So the fixtures to open up the season were decent. They weren't great, but they weren't bad either. So they got the Newcastle Burnley, 2 good. Then they have Liverpool and Spurs, 2 bad. Then they have a good and a bad. So it's kind of half and half here. But you never know in the top 6. Anyone can win, really. Obviously, we usually just favor City and Liverpool to win those exchanges. Moving on to the midfield differentials. Let's check the fixtures here. So what's like an interesting game that could happen? Could have an interesting game. I don't know, it's a bit tough. I know who we can go with. So this may seem like a pretty bad pick, but for midfield, most of the midfielders are usually pretty decent for their percentage owned. But I'm going to go with Mason Mount. Now, it seems like a very bad fixture on paper, because Chelsea are going to want to control the ball and Leicester are going to want to break, which favors, obviously, Leicester in the playing style. But Lampard has shown that he can mix up the team. So he may be looking to replicate something that they did against Liverpool, where they started off on the front foot. And Mason Mount seems to be a key part of that, and he seems to trust him. So it's 6 million. He seems a little bit on the expensive side for someone who's not as proven in the Premier League, but he is a winger, and wingers can do a lot of damage. But we just need the service into the right person. So Olivier Giroud is going to be a big part of that. I think he is the man that needs to start over Tammy Abraham. Because he can feed in the likes of Mount, the likes of Pedro. I'm not sure if Willian is back. But he can feed in these types of players. Especially if you get Emerson bombing forward, he can also be an outlet on the left-hand side as well. So I'm going to go with Mason Mount as my differential for this week, even though the fixture looks not great on paper. And like I said, he is a 1.3% ownership. Moving on to the forwards, I already know who I'm picking. We mentioned him earlier. It's Joe Linton. 2.6% owned up against Norwich, newly promoted side. If they're going to need to do anything, it's going to be in this game. It's going to have to go through Joe Linton. He seemed to be the guy that was getting the most chances, him and spacing it, Almiron. So we can look to see if the dynamic between those two is a lot more potent than what it was against Arsenal. And if it is, then we can look to see the amount of damage that they can do against a newly promoted side. Newcastle obviously showing that they have a lot of energy. Obviously, if John Joe Shelby stays fit for the season, he can potentially unlock these defenses and get something going. So hopefully those picks work out. So just to recap, it was Henderson from Sheffield United in goal. We had Ainsley Maitland-Niles from Arsenal. at 5 million. We had Mason Mount, who was 6 million at Chelsea in the midfield, and Joe Linton as the Newcastle forward. Now, let's get on to the main part. Potential transfers. Well, don't want to transfer out my goalkeeper because I know Pope's fixtures eventually get a lot better, and I want to keep him for all those fixtures, and that was the plan. So probably not. We're not going to get rid of him. Wilson and King, they're staying because they're up against Aston Villa. And then you have one blip in the road, that and maybe Leicester away, and they have good fixtures all around that. So we're obviously keeping those two in for this week. Brighton, West Ham, don't have any of those players. Everton versus Watford. Watford looked terrible, so we're obviously liking Digne's chances at a clean sheet and potentially a return. Norwich, Newcastle, don't have anyone there. Southampton, Liverpool, hoping for the Liverpool clean sheet this week as we have a double up on it. Although, obviously with Adrian and Allison out, it doesn't seem as likely. Also, them conceding 2 goals to Chelsea in midweek as well, especially conceding first. It's very uncharacteristic. And then we'll have the captaincy on Salah, obviously. So, we'll hopefully that they can do some damage. Man City and Spurs, we have 2 City players, obviously looking for a clean sheet there for Man City. But I would be okay if it was a 1-1 in the grand scheme of things, assuming Sterling is the one that is doing the scoring, or some type of draw, because that's the maximum amount of points for teams that, like Man United, to go past them in the table, even though it's only 2 game weeks in. But every point counts as at the end of the day, as we saw. Moving on to the Sunday fixture, Sheffield United versus Crystal Palace. Just keeping an eye on Lundstrom. I want to start him. I don't think I am. I think I'm just going to stick with the same team. I like to keep the attacker and Izzy Perez in because they could potentially hurt Chelsea on the break. And speaking of Chelsea, Chelsea versus Leicester at Stamford Bridge. Looking to see if Izzy Perez can potentially pull something off. Had little tidbits here and there against spacing on who they played last week. Against Wolves, of course. But not really enough to warrant a huge threat. But still, obviously, we've seen what he can do at Newcastle with obviously a lot worse side. And then, obviously, a big game that we're going to be paying attention to is the 3 p.m. kickoff EST versus Wolves for Man United. Have Martial on the team. Obviously, hope that he does well. And everyone's going to be keeping an eye on that because some people have already started to bring in Man United assets. And if they do well again, then United has even easier fixtures. So if we actually look at Man United's fixtures, obviously Wolves away, Crystal Palace at home should be quite straightforward. Southampton away should be very easy. Leicester at home is not great. West Ham away should be pretty straightforward. Arsenal at home should be able to deal with them quite handily as their defense is very good. Newcastle away, again, a team that looks like they could potentially be going towards a relegation based on just initial, on paper thoughts. Liverpool at home is going to be tough, and then they have obviously a super good run here, and then some pretty bad fixtures towards the beginning of December, and then a good decent run again, and then a bunch of different things. Going on towards the end of the season with a very good end to the season. So if they can get through these sets of fixtures here, so if they come out of 5 game weeks with 12 points, then you're looking at a serious threat, both fantasy-wise and in the league. So, am I doing any transfers? I don't think so. The only transfer potentially considering would be if I wanted to bring in a Man United defender, so like a Wan-Bissaka maybe, and then Pope. But we know Pope's fixtures were not great for the first 4. Had the one good one in game week 1, and then it's kind of till after game week 4, and then after game week 4 is really good. So we're gonna keep those in. We're gonna obviously the key points this week: monitor double Liverpool defense, see how that goes. Monitor Bournemouth's threat going forward, and monitor the amount of returns United assets get. Those are the 3 highlights this week, so we can potentially look at those. So I believe that is going to do it for this stream. Please make sure to follow the stream. We're gonna have another one of these after the game week, probably either Sunday or Monday. I may not do I may do it before the United game. It all depends on how the week is going. And yeah, we'll go from there. This will be going up on YouTube. You can find that by just looking down in the links in the description below on the channel under the socials. And we will be posting all of these as soon as they are readily available to me, and I'll be posting them before I go off to raid, hopefully, and put them on the channel, and then you can see these chats that we have and the highlights that we go through, and all of the different fixtures and all the sorts is going to be on YouTube. And make sure to hit the bell on YouTube to see when a video goes up. You can also with the follow on Twitter, you can see when, or on Twitch, sorry, when we go live. Typically we do these FPL streams, like I said, on Fridays or the day before the first game of the week, and after the last game of the week, or on the Sunday evening. So that's going to do it for this week. Check out the socials down in the description below. And if you enjoyed it, make sure to give it a thumbs up. Make sure to follow us on the channel. Make sure to tune in for the live stream. We want to get interactive. We want to get this channel going with you guys, because you obviously share the same passion as I do with Fantasy Premier League. So with that, wherever you are in the world, I'll leave you with a good day, a good morning, a good night, and I'll see you in the next one. See ya!